Jim Harbaugh's winning the offseason, man. Andy Staples covers the sport for Sports Illustrated. What do you make of all of this with Saban even responding to Jim Harbaugh?
He wasn't responding to Jim Harbaugh necessarily. Jim Harbaugh responded to him, but this is what we've been coming toward with the satellite camp thing, which is by far the dumbest debate in the history of NCAA rule debates. But we were waiting eventually for Saban versus Harbaugh because nobody actually understands what they're talking about. I mean, I could explain what they're talking about, but your listeners would be asleep. But they know that Nick Saban doesn't like it and Jim Harbaugh likes it, so that's enough.
But Andy,
we finally got the steel cage match.
Okay, but these satellite camps. So explain, Jim Harbaugh, what advantage could he be getting by going into the South and setting up a football workout or whatever he's trying to accomplish?
There's no real advantage to him. He's actually kind of trying to negate the prohibitive advantage that schools that are closer to good players already have. You know, if you're at Alabama or Georgia or Florida State, you have a prohibitive advantage over Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, because more good players live near you. So all they're doing is trying to get in front of those good players, give them a cheap option to come see them instead of having to buy a plane ticket to come see them. And that's really, it's not bad for the game. There is one loophole that Nick Saban's mad about, and he's right, and they kind of need to clear that up. Basically, they could pay a high school coach $100,000 now to quote unquote rent his field to use for their camp. They probably need to button that up, and they could do that by saying, "Hey, you can have these camps, but they need to be on the campus of an NCAA member institution, and that could be Division II school, Division III school, doesn't matter."
But are they going to get rid of these? Are they going to get rid of these camps here next season?
I don't think so. Because they're in the best interest of most of the schools in the country. The SEC and the ACC schools don't want them because, well, most of the SEC and most of the ACC schools don't want them because they want to protect their turf. They want to keep that geographic advantage they have because they're near more of the good players. And I would do the same thing if I were at Alabama or Georgia. I wouldn't want people coming in to my state and trying to take my players or have a better option, a cheaper option to go see them. I would want to make it as hard as possible for them to meet Jim Harbaugh, or for them to meet Mark D'Antonio or meet James Franklin.
I wish somebody would have asked Nick Saban, when you were at Michigan State, would you have considered doing a satellite camp in the South?
He would have done it in a heartbeat. That's the craziest part about this. So Nick Saban, when he got to Alabama in 2008, there was a deal where the head coaches out in May could go out to different high schools and scout players. Nick Saban went to so many high schools and was kicking so much butt on the recruiting trail that a lot of the coaches in the SEC are like, well, we don't want to work as hard as Nick Saban. So they passed a rule, which today is still called the Saban rule, where head coaches can't go out on the road in May because they didn't want to work as hard as Nick Saban. So it is a little funny to hear the coaches in the SEC saying, well, you know, it really crimps into the coach's time, and now they have no time in June at all. But here's the deal. If you don't like them, don't do them. Dabo Swinney at Clemson, they're not doing them. Their thing is, we have camps on our campus. You want to come? Come on. You'll see how nice it is to live here, and maybe you'll decide you want to play for Clemson. And guess what? They're winning plenty of games. So if they're secure enough to feel like they can keep winning without doing it, I think a lot of schools are going to figure out, you know, it doesn't matter if they do this. Because here's the thing. Jim Harbaugh can come work a camp in Georgia, work a camp in Florida, work a camp in Alabama. He's still got to convince those kids that live there to move to Michigan, which is a hard thing to do when Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Jim McElwain, and Jimbo Fisher are saying, you could just move here and be 2 hours from home.
The state of Baylor football, Andy, is what right now?
A mess. And, you know, I don't know what happens from here on out. They've got Jim Grobe in as the interim. It's not safe to assume anything in terms of will the current staff still be there when they start the season, because, you know, if you look at the report they released last week, you know, it said multiple coaches were involved in some of this stuff. Only one coach so far has been fired, and that's Art Briles. So yeah. My question is, are you just letting these guys play out the string so you don't have to do two staff searches instead of just the one? Because they're going to have to do another coaching search in November. You know, Jim Grobe, he has worked a documented football miracle by winning the ACC at Wake Forest, but this is going to be tough. Maybe he gets the job permanently, but it's going to be hard, even though they have a very good team coming back, two good quarterbacks in Russell and Stidham. But you look at Arkansas when Bobby Petrino got fired in April, that was a good team coming back too, and they just absolutely fell apart. There's so much that can go wrong here. So, unless that team really rallies together, it's probably going to be a pretty hard season for them.
What's Ole Miss trying to pull off here?
Well, they're trying to get the NCAA to say, oh, well, that stuff we found wasn't so bad. You can do your 11 doc scholarships over 4 years and suspend some assistant coaches. My guess is the NCAA Committee on Infractions is going to probably tack on a little more than that, but it's not going to be what everybody thinks it is, where Hugh Freeze gets fired and the program just goes down the tube. It's not going to happen. Hugh Freeze isn't going anywhere. At worst, maybe they suspend him for a game or 2 or 3, but that's probably the worst case scenario for Hugh Freeze, unless those texts that came out on draft night from Laramie Tunsil turn out to be true, because those appear to describe a payment program through the football office. And look, I'm not naive. I grew up in SEC country. Look, these things happen, but there's a way that they happen. There's an order of things, and that it's been going on for generations. You don't pay through the football office. If you are paying through the football office and you get caught, you probably should get severely punished for being stupid. So the thing is, I don't know if they're going to be able to catch anything. Because remember, Laramie Tunsil's stepfather last year gave them a laundry list of different things, saying, oh, he's getting cash, he's getting this, he's getting that. They found that he got a loaner car, that they got some hotel rooms, and that's what they found. They suspended Laramie Tunsil for 6 games. Had all that stuff been true, they would have never let Laramie Tunsil play again. They probably would have bombarded the coaching staff at that point. So, it's Ole Miss is trying to spin it its way, like nothing too bad happened. There's probably going to be a little more punishment, but probably not what the average Mississippi State or Alabama fan would like to see happen.
All right, before I let you go, explain this to me with Memphis in the Big 12 and the role that the company FedEx is trying to play here.
Well, basically, Memphis has recruited FedEx as kind of the presenting sponsor for the University of Memphis, saying that FedEx will come in and sponsor a Big 12 championship game, and they'll help out with all this corporate advertising. And it's not bad. It's probably something that every school should do, because almost every school is hooked into a big company like this. Fred Smith from FedEx has been very good to Memphis over the years, and so it's as things go, it's a good way for Memphis to try to sell itself to the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 is going to expand. I don't think there's 2 schools out there that really help the Big 12 at this point. But if you're a long shot, and Memphis, came into that thing as a long shot, having some big corporate money backing you is certainly helpful.
Yeah, just a financial battering ram to get into the Big 12. Man. Man.
But the thing is, there may be no Big 12 in 2025. Right? Big 12 is about as stable as his TV contract. As soon as that's gone, you better hope Texas is still happy, because if they want to leave, no Big 12 anymore.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Dan.
Andy Staples, Sports Illustrated.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.